WWE fans, Monday Night Raw delivered one of those segments that instantly changes the conversation around two superstars. What started as a simple confrontation quickly turned into a powerful statement about who WWE sees as the next generation of its biggest stars. Bron Breakker walked into the ring looking for answers, confidence written all over his face, while Oba Femi arrived with a completely different kind of energy, calm, composed, and seemingly certain that he already knew where he stood. There was no need for either man to create unnecessary chaos. The tension between them was already strong enough. For weeks, their rivalry had been building through tense exchanges and unmistakable challenges, and this confrontation finally gave both men the opportunity to put their feelings into words. What made the segment stand out was how differently they approached the situation. Breakker wanted recognition and wanted to know exactly where he stood in WWE's future. Femi, meanwhile, seemed almost amused by the question. Instead of treating Breakker's challenge as something intimidating, he answered with the kind of confidence that immediately changed the mood in the arena. It was not simply another argument between two rising stars. It felt like WWE was drawing a line between two very different personalities and asking the audience to decide which one truly belongs at the top. Why Oba Femi has so much momentum. The reason Femi's confidence carries so much weight goes back to his incredible rise. His victory over Brock Lesnar at SummerSlam gave him a level of momentum that very few young WWE stars ever experience. Sharing the ring with a performer of Lesnar's stature is already a massive opportunity, but coming out of that match with a victory made the moment even more significant. The bigger story was what happened afterward, when Lesnar acknowledged Femi and helped elevate the young star in front of the WWE audience. Moments like that can completely change the perception of a performer. Suddenly, Femi was no longer simply a promising talent waiting for his opportunity. He looked like someone WWE could build major stories around for years. That victory became an important part of the conversation surrounding his future, and it also created an obvious contrast with Bron Breakker. Breakker has been building his own reputation as one of WWE's most physically impressive young stars, but Femi's rapid rise has created a new challenge. Now there are two powerful athletes competing for the same spotlight, and neither seems interested in taking a step backward. That is what makes this rivalry so interesting. It is not simply about one superstar disliking another. It is about two ambitious performers believing they have what it takes to become the next major name in WWE. Bron Breakker wants his respect. Breakker did not enter the ring simply to complain. He came looking for an answer. After watching Femi receive so much attention, it was clear that Breakker wanted to know why the conversation about WWE's future seemed to be moving in another direction. He has already established himself as a major competitor and has spent significant time positioned near the top of the card. From his perspective, there is no reason to simply step aside while another young star receives all the attention. That frustration was visible throughout the segment. Breakker carried himself like someone who believed he had earned the right to be considered among WWE's most important future stars. His question was straightforward. Who is really going to lead WWE into the next era? But the answer he received was not what he wanted. Instead of giving Breakker a complicated response, Femi essentially dismissed the question altogether. That simple reaction made the moment even more effective because Femi did not appear bothered by the challenge. He did not need to prove his confidence through a long speech. His attitude suggested that, in his mind, the evidence was already there. Breakker may believe he deserves the spotlight, but Femi believes the spotlight is already his. A handshake, with a bigger meaning. The most interesting visual came when Heyman brought the confrontation toward its conclusion. Instead of allowing the situation to descend into complete disorder, the moment ended with a handshake that carried far more meaning than it appeared to on the surface. Heyman had previously been closely associated with Breakker, which made his interaction with Femi especially noticeable. Seeing Heyman acknowledge both men created plenty of questions about where his loyalties and long-term plans might actually be heading. In professional wrestling, sometimes the smallest gestures can create the biggest speculation. A handshake can mean respect, business, strategy, or even a warning. In this case, it felt like a visual representation of the changing landscape around these two stars. Breakker could no longer assume that he was the only young talent being positioned for something bigger. Femi had clearly entered that conversation, and Heyman's actions made that impossible to ignore. the handshake did not settle the rivalry. If anything, it added another reason for fans to keep watching. It suggested that there could be a much larger story developing behind the scenes, with both men trying to establish themselves while Heyman watches the situation carefully. The real rivalry has just begun. What makes this confrontation so important is that neither man really walked away as a loser. Breakker may have been embarrassed by the exchange, but that embarrassment gives him an even stronger reason to respond. Femi may have won the verbal battle, but now he has placed an enormous target on himself. When you confidently announce that you are the future, everyone who believes they deserve that position suddenly has a reason to challenge you. That is exactly what WWE needs from a rivalry like this. It should feel competitive, personal, and important without relying on unnecessary chaos. Breakker wants to prove that he belongs at the top. Femi wants to prove that his rise is not a temporary moment, but the beginning of something much bigger. Their upcoming showdown, therefore, has more meaning than simply determining who is stronger on one particular night. It could establish who has the momentum heading into the next stage of WWE's future. September 6 could be a major turning point. Now all eyes turn towards September 6 in Atlanta, where these two rising stars are expected to finally settle their differences inside the ring. After everything that happened on Raw, the match has become much more personal than it might have been a few weeks ago. Breakker will enter wanting to erase the memory of being dismissed and prove that nobody gets to decide his place in WWE except himself. Femi will enter with the confidence of a man who believes his recent success has already established his position. That contrast should make for a fascinating encounter. There is no guarantee that one match will completely define either man's career, but it could certainly change the direction of their rivalry. The biggest question is no longer whether these two men have a future in WWE. It is which one can take the next major step forward when the pressure is at its highest. Raw gave us the confrontation. September 6 has the opportunity to give us the answer, and if the tension from Monday night is any indication, this rivalry is only getting started.